what's the rapper name? That's his name, right? Mike, that
Killer
rapper.
Mike. Killer
Killer
Mike.
Mike.
Killer
Killer
Mike.
Mike.
Okay, mix it up. Yeah. Well, yeah, him. He had something similar of what you were saying, Di, that he was talking about how we can solve, especially in the Black community, the single, home crisis instead of punishing to reward and incentivize marriage. And that was kind of what he was talking about, because we punish in terms of like what y'all say, oh, paying child support, and like how y'all say incentivize divorce or whatever, right? That he was saying, if instead we incentivize marriage through kind of like what she was saying, that would probably increase the marriage rate and help marriages stay together longer. By the longer you stay together, the more incentives you get.
Yeah, I think we could do a
See,
combination of both.
there's a couple of problems with that. What would make anyone think that that's what the government wants? That they could have. This has been thought of a
They
long
actually
time
want
ago.
the
I
opposite
think
of that.
if you yes, that's the problem.
That
And we
you
and we
need two
drinking the
people
yeah.
paying two taxes
That's
and
the
buying two
problem. That's
houses.
the problem. If you look at what
That's
happened with the
true.
modern day feminism, that pretty much nailed in the coffin the family structure.
Then
So
vote
we
their ass
understand that
out.
the government wants that the opposite of what we're saying that they should do, and it works, right? It works. Think about it. If you have strong families, it, we know this is by design. The only problem is we're drinking the Kool-Aid, right? And it's us mostly more than everybody else. And what we have to understand is that if we go by the formula of 20% of the men creating 80% of the babies, that would allow us to figure out that not all men are bad actors. There are some, right? We have people like NBA YoungBoy, Nick Cannon, Future, of course. Can't forget Future, running the numbers up, right? And as long as females keep trying to invite these dudes, these type of dudes who they know can't possibly give them or their children the amount of time necessary to raise children correctly, then we have to look at what are we doing? What is it that we really want? If you continue, why would you think you special? You think you about to turn this man around and make him just be a good father all of a sudden? No, it's impossible. And we have to come to the reality that most men don't behave like this. We're not all out here doing that. If you just take a small sample size, look at the panel. I don't know how many of us have multiple baby mothers, but I don't know who. I don't think anyone. That's not how most of us engage. None of the people who I'm surrounded with, most of the people who I'm around are husbands, right? Or they're working their way up to be husbands.
That's a
Most
lie.
people who I engage
I
with.
have multiple baby mothers.
Okay. Was one of them just a BM, or one of them is your wife, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, it happens. It happens, but it's not the majority of us. And statistically, it's definitely not the majority of us, right? Overall, it's not a lot of us that are doing that. That's the point. That most of
It's
us,
roughly
most
around
men.
20. It's about 28%.
But I feel like
Okay,
to
so that's
his
a
point,
small.
we're
That's
talking
definitely
to
the
their
minority,
men,
right?
but it's more men who are doing what they're supposed to do and taking care of their children and being active fathers. I think we just talk about the ones who are not more, which makes it seem like that's the case. And I don't think
Right.
that's the case. And I do think that in our community, I'm talking about our community specifically, men are actually holding themselves accountable to actively change and do things different. Whether you have multiple baby mamas or not, if you're being an active parent as much as you can be, then you're still doing it differently than Future. Like we're just talking about a
Yeah.
rap. You know what I mean? Like I think we do, and we are setting a cultural expectation. We got to think about it. Even when they said we couldn't get married, we still jumped over brooms. Even when they were setting our businesses on fire, we still were in the same household together. Now, have they tried to like come in between it and make things different? Yes, but overall, we still are doing what we're supposed to do.
So I will say this though, that
How the hell
we
we ain't
actually,
eat?
if you look at the data, we actually aren't trending in the right direction. Marriage rates are falling
Our
tremendous.
our pregnancies also are going up.
Well,
or are those
well,
also
no,
wrong
at
too?
that no. Well, if you look at pregnancies are also falling, but that's because of a whole
Right.
number of reasons. Which is why I don't disagree with mistaken and die when I say that I think we can do both. I think you can incentivize relationships and marriage while at the same time punishing people who deviate away from it. Like we can have a double. It can be a double edge where you tell
That's a good idea.
people, hey, look, man, we can. Here's what we can do. Because I even thought about this where you make it a requirement to receive aid because single mothers aren't the only ones that need aid in this country. We know whole families that need aid in this country, but you reserve the aid for the people that do it the right way, i.e., they go out there and get married and they have their children and they're taking care of their children together. I can see us incentivizing family over incentivizing a culture. Now, to Trey's point, he says that the government doesn't want that. That may be true, but at that point, if we have a degenerate government, we got to do what we got to do to trade that in. That's what our vote power is supposed to be for.
Or social
Oh,
programs. I
I
think
see.
a lot of times we think we have to ask the government's permission to incentivize things in our community. We can do it ourselves. You don't, it doesn't need to be, it doesn't need to come from the man. You can incentivize marriages within your community and your culture
I,
outside of asking the government to play a
How do
hand
I
you
in
do
it.
will.
that when
I
the
will say
community
this
ain't on
though. I
board
will
for it?
say this though. Even if that was the government's plan at one point in time, I think they overshot. And actually, I think our government is actually starting to recognize that if let's say for the sake of argument, it was the government's design to break up a bunch of families and create a bunch of single mothers to get two incomes out of it. I think they overshot. And I even think that they're starting to recognize that they may have created a problem. Because that's the reason why you're starting to see Project 2025. And you're starting to see them trying to reverse a lot of the stuff that they gave us before, is because they may have recognized, like, hey, y'all, maybe we fucked up. So maybe in this period of time where you're looking at the lowest marriage rates, the lowest when people aren't making babies at the rate that they used to. You're talking about employment rates are plummeting. People aren't incentivized to even go to work no more. They ain't got families to work for. You got the jobs are leaving the country. I think the government is starting to recognize that, hey, maybe we had the right idea 40 years ago where we were incentivizing family, where we were incentivizing marriage, where we were incentivizing these things because you saw major growth in our country. And now when you incentivize us to do the wrong thing and you gave us a bunch of rights that we had no business having, now you see a society that's starting to fall apart. Maybe.
But I
I'm
still,
just spitballing here. Don't take what I say as law.
I
No,
do
I
agree with
agree
what you're
with you.
saying. I'm just saying, like, culturally, I think we could take onus to create social programs outside of the government to incentivize even like your next door neighbor, the people on your street.
Why when we already have it?
Yeah,
We already
Danielle,
have it.
you always go to the biggest bag in the country. You never go. I get it. You can have those social programs. The biggest bag in the country is the
Yeah,
government.
but the biggest bag gets to tell you what to do with that money. They're not
What
they're
if I
not giving you
what if
that
I told
money
you
and
what if
saying,
I told you
No,
it was
"Do that."
already
that's
a
how you
program?
get grants. What Danielle telling you to do is the way you get the grants.
Yeah,
You have
I'm
to
not
go
What if
out
I
into
yeah,
told you
the
I'm not
community
telling
and get
you
people
do
behind
not
your
let the
why do
idea
we
to
got
access those
why do we
grants.
gotta have programs and money to do the right thing? Why can't we
I
just go
was
off?
just
Because that's how
to
Black
his
people are
I'm
incentivized.
saying I'm
Why
saying to
can't
his
we be
point. I'm not saying I agree.
why can't our own salvation and our spiritual connection with God be enough incentive for us?
Because everyone
Why
has
do
a
we got to
different
use
God.
worldly things to incentivize doing the right thing? Do we
Because
give a fuck about? Go ahead.
everyone has a different God, so you don't know what their God is.
Thank you.
Not everyone, but
Appreciate that.
everyone.
Yeah.
To be clear, there are people
Not
with different
necessarily a
I'm
different God, different religion
I
too.
well,
peep.
different gods
Actually,
too.
Different God,
actually,
but
Bruiser,
most of the time it's different.
your question you asked a really good question, but it's the same reason why you have to use government to force them to act right. Because if you've noticed, we both noticed that I've seen people manipulate the Bible to even try to get to do what they want to do. They will find different gods, they will find different to say, hey, look, well, this God told me I can do this, so I'm not gonna follow that God over there because this God allows me to do what I want to do in this
But some
particular
people
situation.
don't read
Darwin, the
the
bank of
Bible, though.
churches won't even let you get a
That's what I'm
loan to
saying.
open up
Like,
a church unless you're teaching the Bible the way they interpret it and want it to be taught.
I'm
Like they
not
don't
saying that
they
That's
won't
I
why
do
you
it.
believe
cash flow
that.
your own money.
I'm just saying that when we have these, Malcolm X talked about that too, as far as like Black nationalism. In the room, we are all Black. But you're gonna have a Muslim, African spirituality, Christian, Catholic, but in the room we are all black. A lot of people. That's why I don't tell people when they like pray
And
for me.
that's
You
the
don't know who
problem.
those people are. I'm not saying it's not the
The
problem.
the
I'm
problem
just
with
saying,
that is you're when you put your color of your skin or your
I
culture
was talking about
above
culture,
God,
not
that's
color.
idolatry.
Well, I'm
You
saying
put,
we are all. I'm talking about culture. We are all a different
I,
color of our skin on there. I'm just talking about culture as far as when
I'm
I say
saying that's
black, I'm talking about
irrelevant. I'm saying it's irrelevant.
the culture.
Color your skin, your hair size, whatever. Your language, all that's irrelevant if you're talking about God's intention for how we're supposed to operate.
But when you say that, when you say God, hey, I was talking to God, and you talking to somebody who don't believe in the same God as you, how do you
I
communicate
don't know.
that?
I didn't know there was a different God. I thought it was only one.
I'm not
So
saying there's not. I'm being objective, like he
I get
said.
it. I get it. I'm under the presumptions that we all believe in the creator of the heavens and earth. Whoever you call it.
I agree with
So
you.
so if you could tell me that your God is different, if you could show me how your plan and my plan that I'm proposing has a different perspective based on the God you believe in, I'm willing to hear that. But I haven't heard you say anything like whatever God you believe in. Just show me what is the plan of action from Him, or or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I think regardless of the God, you should still be able to align with who you're supposed to align with. And if you have an objective you are supposed to reach, you got to put your perspective aside and focus on the goal, the objective.
So I think what he's trying to what he's trying to say is that, do you know of a God or religion that kind of differs when it comes to the family unit and how men and women should behave when it comes to how we interact with one another?
I do not. I know other people who do. I personally don't.
So basically, it really doesn't matter what God
It
you
doesn't matter
follow.
what God you have,
They all tell you the same thing,
essentially.
essentially.
The one I mean, no, I don't agree with that, but I don't think that matters, honestly.
Well, it does matter if you say that it depends on what God you believe in.
Well, I
If
know
we're
people who have it's like 400 different religions, and they make them up as people blink and they make up genders at this point. I'm not. I'm saying I don't think it matters to argue that point. I'm just saying if like let's just say if you say the sky, if you believe in Jesus and I believe in oranges, right?
so
If
then
you
the
say the
conversation
sky
is
is
not about God, it's about your own discernment and your own understanding.
yeah, I'm saying if you say that and you say the sky is blue, I'm not going to argue against that. I know the sky is blue. Like it's okay to have different. When you said the problem is people don't
No, I
have that.
said there's already a program established for how to move, and you don't need to rely on worldly things that's proposed by the government. You could just rely on things that is proposed by the creator, and those things are proven to work.
So are you Christian?
No, I don't call myself a Christian.
Do
I don't
you
label
do
my.
you do
I'm
you
Darwin
follow the
McPherson. That's who I.
Bible?
Yeah, I read the Bible and I learn the scriptures.
All right.
I study the word.